Okay, so I really hope that you guys are having fun. I actually love just kind of getting lost in the software and creating new things, and hopefully you could find the same joy. Please be mindful that although we've done this and I think the Nike logo and the pen tool exercise, I don't think I'm going to give you a demo on the Batman logo. I figure you guys should have enough skill sets to do that on your own. We are going to start on these two, which is also part of your homework. So on this sample, maybe I'm going to do 2 or 3 trees on the black and white, two or three trees on the green colored one, and the rest I'm going to leave for you guys for homework. So be mindful of that. So let's just kind of set this up here. Reduce it smaller, put it on side, and okay. So, I mean, it really, now we're getting to like the nuances of hopefully you guys are power users and just figuring out how much work you guys really want to do, how accurately you want it. But in this case, and by the way, you guys are going to want to do all of these trees and create a vector of them because you will use them in your architecture, studio classes. You will use them as backgrounds and, additional tree things, and you will use it. So I would suggest you don't have to necessarily copy me in exactly what I do, but I would highly suggest that you take the time and to do them and have them all ready. And if you guys have other friends in this class, hey, have one friend do 3 of the trees and you do the other tree, and have another guy do 3, and then you guys can share the resources. Personally, I'm a control freak, so I'm going to probably want to do them all by myself and make sure that I like what I see. So let's start off with something that could potentially be easy, but again, as usual, you want to, I like to call my trace layer, or base layer, trace. And then I'm going to create another layer on top, and it's going to be my artwork. Or maybe I'll call it tree 1, tree 2. At this point, I might want all the trees in separate layers because I want to be able to import and export them individually. Let's start off with something that could be relatively easy. And then we'll just do some other examples. But when I look at this, and again, this is not about being perfect. This should look organic, like if you hand drew them. So I'm going to take my pen tool, and you have some options of some default brushes. Let's just take a look at this basic brush and see what that looks like. What is that? Let me increase the font. Okay, it's just a regular line. That's your basic brush. Now you guys can have an option to do that. I would tell you, be very careful being too artistic, because when you take it into software like Revit, each one of these things are going to be a node or a line or a segment, and it's going to bog down your file. So there's a fine line between creating it very artistically in Illustrator because it's very efficient at its vectorizing, but when you export it, that particular line you see on the screen could be a nightmare, especially in Revit. Revit might just freak out. So let me see what else they might have that we can use. Symbols. Or let's see if we can download some brush. Let's go to Open Brush Library, and I'm kind of doing this on the fly, so excuse me if I'm kind of not knowing exactly what I want to show you. Let's just go to Artistic, and let's go to Charcoal Pencil. And these are some of your charcoal pencil. And what I'm looking for is something that doesn't have crazy amount of points. And these all have a lot of points. And I'm just concerned when I export them. Like for instance, to give you an idea, let's say if I use that. Revit is going to look at each one. This one has like 3 lines. This one has curved lines, which Revit just does not like. So you are really asking for it if, if you're trying to create an artwork in Illustrator, you're going to take this into Revit because it's a vector file and it's clean vector in Illustrator. But when you export this as a vector, Revit is another animal, right? So, you know, I am not going to do that for now. Let's just try to keep it simple. I'll do one where I show you a custom brush because I'll probably create one anyway. But for now, let's just use our basic line. And I'm just going to create, and I'm going to just use different, you know, anchor points, frankly, just so that it looks more random, so it doesn't come straight from a center of a circle. And I'm just going to, oh, hold on one second. Let me select all this. No fill. Outline, let's just pick a color that we can see. And I'm also trying to be careful not to hit an endpoint when I start, because then it'll combine the two. And I like that these are in different. Yeah, now I'm getting lazy and I'm kind of making two of them at the same time. I think you can see what I'm doing. Okay. The only one that looks really out of place is this guy here. So I'm going to move this guy. Oh, dang it. Move that guy there. This one looks kind of funky too. Because, I mean, like a tree, it should start from a theoretical center, right? I mean, just kind of think of it, you know, as if you're an artist and you're like, how do you represent something? You got to kind of understand the essence of that something. So I'm going to go something like that. And then these are little dots, you know, for texturing. You know, in architecture, we just call this stippling, or yeah, we're putting dots with the pencil. So I'm going to set up a little swatch brush, and then you'll see what I would do there. So what I'm going to do is let me just zoom in here, and I'm going to create series of kind of irregular shape things that hopefully represent like random architectural stippling. And let me reduce that, kind of bring it together. And I'm going to just kind of make them so that they're not so perfect. And, you know, guys, it's just a feel. Like, I just feel like I don't want it to feel so like they're on a certain kind of grid. I want it to feel, I guess, random. Yeah, cool. I'll take that. Good happy accident sometimes. Okay, so I have this series of dots. And also, I'm keeping in mind that I want these series of dots to be controlled by a line. You'll see what I mean. So I'm just kind of looking at the center line here. Okay, and then, actually, this is more of an advanced concept, but here, we're going to do this. I'm going to make a copy of this. Okay. From an Illustrator standpoint, this is a stroke, right? This is like an egg shape with a stroke outline, and you can feel the color on the inside. And I guess, you know, do I want like a solid black dot? Or like in this example, you know, like this architect, he drew like little circles that represent kind of broad leaves. So it'll vary, but I want to have that control, I guess. So do I want them in strokes? So here, I guess in a nutshell, here's what I'm going to explain to you. Maybe, hopefully this will make sense. So let's say I have a 0.75. This is math. This width of the stroke is 0.75 points. So what happens is that if I take this and if I enlarge it, you see proportionally the width is still the same, but it looks a lot lighter. And this looks more chunkier, the stroke. And conversely, if I reduce this down super small, the 0.75 just eats up my shape. So what I want to do is do I want to create outlines? Actually, I'm gonna do both. One, I'm gonna turn off the stroke, and so that it's just these little blobules, right? And these blobules could be black. Oop, let me select them. So those are my black dots. Or maybe I'll go and make them kind of so that they're not all black dots. Yeah, maybe that's what I like. And what I do is I select all three of these and I bring them, and basically I create what they call a scatter brush. Okay, there was a little pause. Sorry, somebody was walking in and I didn't want the recording to get interrupted. But anyway, I'm going to create a scatter brush, and let's just call it custom. So I'm going to just call it MA custom 1, because I'm probably going to make a few depending on how much I like them or not. And we're just going to say okay for now. So what that does is it created a brush up here, and I can still keep my original artwork to adjust and make additional brushes. So what that means is that if I get a brush and I do that, you see how it kind of scatters. So let me do it on a straight line first, or a straightish line. You can see that all it does is that it takes this shape and it just kind of repeats it along that line, right? And so what we want to do now is you want to double click on that, and you want to make it more random. So maybe the size goes from, 30% of the original shape to 100, right? And you want to do a preview. And you can see it goes 130, 130. Maybe I want to do more like, so that's not so. And then spacing, you also want to make it random. So instead of being equal spacing, you want it to be somewhat, I guess organic. Do not do the scatter, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. If you do the scatter, it's going to deviate from the line. Then you won't be able to control exactly where you want these patterns to go. So if you see how it deviates from that line, then it gets crazy. You can't control it. So I would tell you, let's bring it back to, was it 100? And we're going to just do fix. Oop, now it's off centered. Yeah, I screwed that up. I'm going to cancel it. So again, in this particular scatter brush, don't do the scatter. All right, so we're going to go random. Oh, scatter was at 0. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we're going to go from like 50% to 100. Spacing's going to be definitely random. And rotation, your shape will kind of get funky. I don't mind it, again, because you're trying to make it look as organic and natural as possible. And I think that's it. So I'm going to apply that. So now what happens is this thing here, I could take that brush, and I can just, so that I don't have to do those little dots individually, you know? Hopefully you guys get it. All right, so I'm gonna, and also when you guys create something, the base, you know, keep it. I would highly recommend you learn how to save things, and that way you don't have to recreate the wheel from scratch, and you could use it in other assets. So I might be able to use that later, but anyway. So let me select all that, move it out. So there you go. Let's move this to the perimeter a little bit. Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoy that little trick. And then also just graphically what I'm trying to do is, let's say sun is, you know, like coming from this side, so I see more leaves, and then this kind of disappears, or I guess from a lighting perspective, if light's coming here is brighter, but I'm just trying to give it a volumetric shape, right? So, and again, now I can just copy these things, and then of course I'm going to turn all these guys into black and white. So there you go. So I have a nice little tree. So now here we have the same problem. Remember, these things were strokes. So, and actually maybe I'm just gonna make some strokes a little bit vary. I think that looks, yeah, that looks cool. It looks very organic. And okay. So, oh no, I don't like that one. That's too skinny. Maybe that guy can be super skinny. Yeah, okay. And then, the tree feels a little bald here, so I'm just gonna do some in the, all right. That looks good. Maybe I'm all right, now I'm just being silly here. Okay, so but here is the deal, guys. So let's say you group this, for instance. And then you go, oh yeah, I want a smaller tree because, you know, I want some big trees, I want smaller trees. So then I come in here and I hold down my shift and I group. Look how nasty that looks, right? That is because each one of these have a stroke, a shape associated to it, and all of that. And also this stroke was 1 point, and then 1 point when it's this small, it looks super thick. So, so what you want to do is you want to do this little trick, and I'm not sure if I can do it with the scatter brush. Let me see. First, you want to take the path and you want to outline the stroke. So what that does is that it creates each path as no longer a stroke, but a shape, like a rectangle that you've created. And in this case, hopefully these were all outlined too, although I'm not 100% sure yet because that was from a brush, but I think it did it. Also, you see all these overlapping parts. I want to be able to select all of that. Let me ungroup. And to select just the branches, I'm going to combine them using my Pathfinder. So now that is just a clean thing where I can make that into a different color. Ooh, what happened? Yep. And you see how I don't get these overlapping. So this is as if you took the pen tool and you literally did each branch in this little cubes. And just to prove my point here, I could select these, and now these nodes, I can go like that and make them less square, right? You know, I'm going to take the time to do it, guys, because I'm probably going to start using these things in my new template. And I'm not going to do all of it. Again, you just want it to look as organic as possible. Maybe I do something like that. So this is like if you use the pen tool and being very disciplined, created your own artwork. So, you know, and I'm trying to make it look not so Illustrator-esque, or kind of look more organic. All right, now I'm totally geeking out. Please excuse me. But I would hope that some of you guys would appreciate what I'm doing. All right, I think that looks, this turned out to be way too skinny. Let's do that. And then let's move that point out so it's less skinny. All right, so that's cool. And then, you know, we know this is a pencil drawing, right? And let's see how this is going to behave. Oh yeah, so these are, again, now they're individual nodes. It's acting like individual little shapes that I drew. So that's exactly what I want. And I think I'm going to keep them in these small cluster groups, because later on when I do the colored ones, I can have some light green, darker green, and make it look like foliage, right? But I'm going to undo that now. Oh, that's another interesting thing also, since this is all grouped, and in the grouping I have different colors, but if I change it, it all changed to green. So there's a trick later, which we're going to go through the selecting of same characteristics, and then after that I would regroup that. So, but that'll be later. Let's just get through this exercise here. So I'm going to bring this back in, and then I am going to color it black, fill it black, and then there you go. So we have our very first tree. I think it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. I could certainly use this in my site plan presentations. And then, of course, I'm going to group that. And then we're going to do a test and then scale it up. Still looks good. We're going to do scale it down. And still looks good. So that's the test of whether your artwork is set up properly for its intended use, okay? Because you want to be able to reduce things up and down and scale proportionally, and the thickness also scales and things like that. So anyway, I think that's it.